So while we were in LA, we had planned to have Professor Eddie Glaude Jr. On the show, but some technical difficulties prevented us from being great that day. But today is a great day because our good friend Professor Glaude is with us as we have returned from LA. Meanwhile, he tweeted that he decided not to watch the Super Bowl. He's a lifelong Steelers fan, but I think I am done with the NFL. Professor, you and I messaged privately about this as well, that you were done with the NFL. Simply, why?
Well, first of all, it's just wonderful to see you. See you both.
Great to see you.
Likewise.
You know, I'm tired of being in a position where, as a consumer, as someone who gives his time, as someone who loyally affiliates with a team, to in some ways identify with a league that has no real interest in the things I care about. And, you know, from Colin Kaepernick to even before then, you know, grappling with the issues of race around coaches and owners, and seeing the way in which the league was in effect gaslighting around this issue. And at this point in my life, y'all, they can just kiss my behind. I have no interest in it anymore. And I will die a Steelers fan, but it will be in memory, not moving forward. So it was just me just saying, why am I spending my time with people, with an industry that doesn't really give a damn about what I care about?
Is this a recent decision, or have you felt this way for a while and just gave voice to it a couple of days ago?
I've felt this way for a while, you know, since, you know, and the Kaepernick situation is complex. We know it's complex in terms of how the issue was resolved, in terms of some of the other players and the like. But, you know, I used to watch football in the NFL from, you know, start with the starting shows until the late night game. My wife, who was my fiance at the time, watched me just watch football all day. And Super Bowl days, playoffs, that's all. I was locked in. But I found myself as I got older, and particularly around the way in which the league responded to Black Lives Matter and Colin Kaepernick, pulling away. And then this was just simply the icing on the cake.
Because when you and I were messaging, and you told me, you know, you didn't get into this much detail, but when I was apologizing that we weren't able to talk to you, you were like, no worries. And you also showed us some love on Twitter, and we appreciate that. You know, we retweeted it, but also thank you for showing us some love about our conversations. But I told you, I said, and Michael and I actually talked about this. Was this Monday, Michael, in LA? That as I was packing to leave, as I was packing to leave to go to not only bring Brother from Another to LA, but also be a part of NBC's pregame coverage, I felt conflicted. More so than ever. I always realized that I was a part of the larger machine. Once upon a time, I was an NFL insider, so reporting on, you know, the news of the NFL. But even as somebody who's, you know, talking about it every day and debating about it every day with my man Michael Holley, that I am feeding our national insatiable appetite for this sport. And I said, you know, I wonder if deep down in places they don't talk about at parties, whether the NFL looks at the Flores lawsuit or any kind of controversy and just says all publicity is good publicity. I said on Sunday, Professor, that it feels like we are in Sal's Famous asking why ain't no black people on the wall. Meanwhile, business is booming. You know what I mean? And so what am I to do feeling that way about what it is that I do to contribute to the NFL machine while feeling that same angst, that same tension that you feel about the NFL's lip service at best that it pays to the issues that affect us. As I said about the halftime show, they want our rhythm but not our blues. What am I to do with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I think it informs your commentary. It has informed your commentary. It has informed the way in which both you and Mike exhibit a kind of courage around sport to bring the issues, you know, squarely to the table, right? So I think it's important to understand, as a football fan, I have a choice, right? And I exercise my choice, right? If you don't have an interest in me, I don't have an interest in you. I don't think we're obligated to buy Sal's Pizza. I can go and find another slice somewhere else, right? And so with you, though, with you and Mike, I think it's really important to understand that if you're not there, somebody else is going to be there. Someone who might not have your sensibility, someone who might not have your insights, someone who might not have your politics. And so we always have to be conscious of the spaces we occupy and the work that we're doing in those spaces that we occupy. So as a fan, I can make that choice. But the platform that you two have, it's important to understand the responsibility that you have to speak the truth to these people who listen to you, and not to give it up because you know who they're gonna put in your place. And I as I told you, as we texted to each other, I have this sometimes when I find myself on television having to debate people that I vehemently disagree with. But I find myself in those spaces opening up space for a different kind of conversation. And I think it's really important that you guys continue to do that. But as a fan, the NFL can kiss my ass.
I heard that.
I love it. I love the way you phrase that from start to finish. And I want to ask you, particularly in your position and the number of people that you see and you interact with, whether they're students or colleagues of yours, do you see any parallels? Because people always say this, hey, what Brian Flores was talking about in his lawsuit, that is a story of corporate America. You can make that case in any industry. Well, do you see it in your industry, whether it is academia, whether it's TV? And are there any examples when you heard about that lawsuit, did something resonate with you and you said, this is a familiar, this is echoes of fill in the blank? I'm just wondering what your perspective is.
No, absolutely. The NFL is doing what most corporations do, right? They establish a rule, and the way in which they approach diversity is to check the compliance box. That's all they want to do. How far do we go to be in compliance, right? Did we interview X number of coaches? We're in compliance, right? And there's no real serious commitment to diversity as such. And then we find ourselves caught up in the trap. And this is a very complex point, but I think we need to make it. What's being revealed in this moment is also the danger of a certain kind of politics of representation. So you can have the argument that the NFL needs to diversify its coaching ranks. You have 70% black players. You only have 2 black coaches, one just hired recently. And so we can talk about that. But the way in which we talk about it has to be nuanced, because then they'll give you a halftime show and see representation. Then they'll go out and hire Loretta Lynch. See, representation, right? So if you get caught up in representation only, where you're only looking for black faces in high places, then you're going to get caught out there with the games that people play with representation. We're talking about substantive, significant change. And when you look across America, not just simply in sport, but in higher education, in places like I work, when you look at it in corporate America, from Goldman Sachs to travel insurance, we see the same issues at work, where the country isn't really committed to diversity, but only committed to performing it. And asking us to shut up and be grateful.
You know what, Professor, I think that's a great way to segue into what I thought was a beautifully written, poignant piece by you in the Washington Post on Black history. And I love the way you ended it, talking about growing up in Mississippi and there's something weighing on you. You said the witches are riding your back. That's what the folks would say to you. And you said the country, our past is riding us. What do we do with that? Or do we, people who look like us, do we do nothing with it and push it back and say, all right, here's a mirror, look at yourself in this mirror and make some changes, or at least consider what that reflection is telling you?
Oh, absolutely. We are the mirror. That's why there's always this ongoing effort to remove us from the scene, because people don't want to see what's being reflected back. You see, the story that we tell ourselves orient us to these ethical and broader ethical and moral questions. The past haunts, the ghost of our past actually have the country by the throat. And you see in this moment where there's a different America struggling to be born. And there's an America and there's an America that seems to be dying and really struggling not to be placed on the cooling board, as it were. That in this moment of storm and stress, of anxiety about what kind of country we will be, it makes sense that there would be an all-out assault on the past. The people who threw rocks and stones at Ruby Bridges don't want their children and their grandchildren to know that they actually threw the stones. They don't want their grandchildren to understand, right, the journey, the storms that we had to go through to get to now, because they want to revel in a kind of innocence, because the innocence in some ways allows them to believe that this is and remains the greatest nation on earth, when we know that that's an aspiration, not a reality. So I think our task is to tell the truth, is to bear witness, is to be that mirror, and not allow these people to turn away, and to not allow. And how can I put this, guys? We can't capitulate to their desire to be innocent. Mm-hmm. We just have to bear witness. We just have to bear witness, and let dominoes fall how they may fall.
Hey, listen,
let the church say.
And Mike, I'll give it to you.
Amen. I was gonna say, yeah.
I was gonna say, and it's perfect that you would say it that way, Mike, because I was gonna say to Professor Glaude, look, I know you wrote about James Baldwin. That James Baldwin, the preacher, the kid preacher James Baldwin, the novelist, essayist James Baldwin is speaking through you right now. That is Baldwin all the way, bearing witness.
Word. And speaking of bearing witness, we will get you out of here because we like your sports takes too. By the way, ran into Louis Riddick on the sidelines pregame. If he gets that Steelers gig, you are allowed to root for Louis Riddick and Mike Tomlin, even if you want to keep the NFL at arm's length. Because
I might check I might look at the stat line and stuff. I might not be watching games, but I'm be checking, of course.
But you're watching The Wire, though. We know you got your sports takes too, man. Speaking of bearing witnesses, your boy LeBron James. You know, you're a Laker guy. They didn't do anything at the trade deadline. We'll see if they augment their roster with the buyout.
Don't admit that publicly. Don't admit that.
So you've taken all your NFL energy, and I know you put it in the NBA. Your Lakers.
Yeah.
Are you hopeful? Because your man Michael Holley today, I ain't trying to snitch or nothing like that. He don't even have your squad making the playoffs this year. He ain't got to make it the playoffs this year. I just want you to know that's how dire it looks.
I might meet with Mike on that one, but I want to say though, 19 years in the league. And what we're seeing from LeBron, I mean, it's mind-blowing, to be honest with you.
That's how I watch the Lakers. I don't even watch them through the prism of contenders. I watch them watching LeBron James have the longest streak of 25-point games of his career at 37 in year 19. I'm just watching the Kings.
I want to remind you guys, I want to remind you on this show, when they made the trades to constitute this team, what did I say? I said this was going to be a disaster. I didn't know how they were going to work on the court. I knew it was going to be a disaster. Me and my son, I actually passed on my Laker love to my baby, who's now a grown man, and we both said, this not going to work. This not going to work. So I'm just been paying attention to what I take to be a historic season on the part of LeBron James, the longevity of this brother. We just got to lift him up. And, he's shooting for Kareem. If he passes Kareem in the number of points, then we might have a conversation.
Don't do it.
But
about what?
But we're not going to have that conversation.
About what? A conversation about what? I mean, I don't even know. Don't even try it. No. Oh, my gosh. You sound like Michael.
What do you mean?
You sound like Holley.
There it is. No.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we can have the conversation. But before we have that conversation, now, is your son, is he over 21?
Yeah, he's 26. Mm-hmm.
He's 26. Okay, so because I'm a generous guy and I have so much respect for you and your family, I'm going to share my winnings with you because I have a bet with intrepid NBA reporter Mark Spears. He had the nerve to bet me some good wine. He's got good taste too, Doc. He bet me some good wine that the Lakers would make it out of the first round. Now, they'll be fortunate to make it out of the play-in series. But he said they're going to make it out of the first round, and if they don't, he's going to send me a case some good wine. So we'll have some wine together, like all of us. Your son,
Drown
the
your
Michaels,
sorrows, basically.
we'll find a space. We'll come to Princeton. It's not that far from us.
We need to get down there. We need to get down there anyway. We need to break bread anyway with you. So
I would love that.
Let's put that on the books. Professor, thank you so much.
Michael, enjoy your case, bro.
We'll bring the wine. I'll bring the wine.
Because they're not getting out the first round if they get in. So enjoy your case, Doc.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate y'all. Take care. Stay safe.
All right. Talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.